good morning. I did forget to tell you one thing. So we are down to our last 3 food cards. We've given some away this week before service. Don't know if you guys knew it, but there's a gentleman that's sleeping over at the restaurant. And I went over and I gave him a gift card. Somebody was generous enough to do a $25 gift card because I figure it's got to last him a day or two during the rain. So we are putting a call out for those of you who are feeling that tug inside to help us address hunger in our neighborhood. So please go ahead and bring your gift cards in, and I brought one today that's going to go in. So I want to do a meditation today, and this meditation is from a talk by Howard Thurman. And you're going to get to know Howard Thurman in a little bit. But this was, so I want us to listen, and then we're going to enter into silence and we're going to meditate. And there is a weariness of the body, which is our common lot, because of the fevered character of our daily rounds. And it's good to sit together in the sanctuary and give rest to the body. There's a weariness of mind due to the wide variety of tensions which engage it. Tensions which express themselves in ambivalences and contradiction and paradoxes. It's good to have a moment when all of these are suspended and the mind waits for a new dimension of a lightness and synthesis. There's a weariness in the world, the kind of exhaustion that comes from the completion of the contemplation of needs that are so vast that the mind cannot encompass, from the awareness of distress, the heights and the depths of which stagger the imagination, the overriding quality of despair that seems to provide the subtle overtone to all the tidings that sweep into us and from the ends of the earth. It is good, so very good, to pause and spread out before the altar the vast reaches of the weariness of the world. There's a weariness of spirit made up in part of hunger, in part guilt and sin and error, in part of anxiety, in part of love and part of hate. And how good it is to bring into our churning spirits moments of quiet, when perchance our Father, it will pleasure thy spirit to breathe into us thy great tranquility, that we may know each after the pattern of his own need and hunger and desperation, and what it is that is needful for his peace. And for this, privilege this fleeting, subtle, creative moment of thy grace, we give thee thanks. We give thee thanks. We give thee thanks, O God our Father. come back to the here and to the now. We come back grateful for the eyes to see the work that is ours to do. Today I'd like to talk to you all about some history and some her story, if you will. I didn't realize how many words were masculine. So history and her story. Her story. We're going to do a little overview with an emphasis on Black history in New Thought and Unity churches. A few weeks ago, I was at a celebration of life services, and the energy and the excitement in that church was amazing. No experience in America quite matches the traditional Black church. Whether it's on a Sunday morning or a celebration of life, the roof-raising music, the sermon exhortations, the dancing, and sometimes fainting. Not every church is the same, but most African customs brought over by the enslaved combine with music and messages that resonate with the community who often feels marginalized. Our Bible verse today is Matthew 18:20. For where two of them or three are gathered in my name, there am I among them. And we are at least three today, maybe more. So that's a good thing, and we are grateful. Today I'm blessed to gather with you with the power and the presence of the divine. Today we stop and we communion with each other in person. As not so long ago, we were having to do all this virtually. Do you remember what that was like? Personally, I like in person way better. Unity was founded in Kansas City, Missouri in 1889 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore after Mrs. Fillmore had been cured of her tuberculosis by spiritual healing. This resulted in the Fillmores studying world religions, spirit healing, and the link between science and religion. Unity is a positive, practical, progressive approach to Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters and the power of prayer. Unity honors the universal truths in all faiths or religions and respects each individual's right to choose their own spiritual path and manifest amazing things in their lives. A group of people just like us thought of and manifested Unity of the West Side. Our church was started in 1949 as Culver City Unity. It started as a study group under the leadership of Dolly Phillips, who was a licensed Unity minister. So I think about her and I think about the vision that she had for us here today. It's been 75 years. And what have we done? Well, we managed to keep the doors open. For that, I'm grateful. But who are we in this community? And how can we continue to impact this community for the good? Because when we impact anything for the good, we are allowing God to work through us, to be God the good in the world. So just think of that. You are a part of co-creating the good in this world, and specifically here in Culver City. Now, you may not make it to the evening news. So many small and good things don't. But in the eyes of your Mother, Father, God, this is why you're here. And you've been prepared for that good every single day of your life. All your struggles, there are those with those same struggles that you used to claim as yours, and they're going through it right now. How can you help them? How can we come together and make an impact? We can do it silently, away from the news, cameras, stealth. I like stealth good, stealth God, stealth love. And the only way to measure ourselves, because we cannot sit in judgment of others, is to ask ourselves, how did the good flow out of us? How did that love flow from me? And don't feel it from your feelings, feel it from your soul. I've told this story before. When I walked into Unity of the West Side back in 1991, I was scolded for sitting in the back. This woman with bright and beautiful blue eyes and an energy of do what I tell you to do right now descended upon us and moved us from sitting in the way back to a pew that was more in front. And then they got to the hugging part. I was not a hugger back then, not even a little bit. I'm more of a hugger today, and I kind of like that. But I was with a friend, and we had probably never hugged each other. And then we looked wide-eyed at these people who we perceived were not being very respectful of our personal space. We almost left and we didn't come back. But the truth talk, and the fact that we sang a Cat Stevens song, Morning is Broken, which is really a hymn in the hymnal, but I didn't know that. I just knew it as a Cat Stevens song. It was enough to allow us to look past these perceived mistreatments and come back. There was something here that spoke to my soul. If you come to Unity of the West Side on any given day, here's what I hope you'll find. First, I will never tell you where to sit, and neither will Jane. And I will offer my hand in kinship. We are here together to experience God, Christ, and fellowship. We're not here to judge you on your race or if you bring your partner who might be the same sex as you. We acknowledge our diversity, but strongly believe in our unity. We see you as you are, a perfect child of God, bright and lit from within, with all the love and the beauty of the divine. We celebrate you home here. We will also not tell you what God to worship, for your relationship with your source of all good is yours, and mine is mine, and hers is hers, and hers is hers. Our respect could be the first thing that you notice about us. Our kindness and loving openness is worn on our sleeves. We as a community are here for you to join with in brotherhood and sisterhood, and we all live in glass houses, so we don't throw stones here. Whoever you are, we celebrate you. We encourage your journey to your awakening to truth principles and to the Christ within us all. Unity and diversity is a concept of unity without uniformity and diversity without fragmentation. Without uniformity and diversity and without fragmentation. Hear that? It shifts the focus from unity based on a mere tolerance of physical, cultural, linguistic, social, religious, political, ideological, and or psychological differences towards a more wonderfully complex unity based on an understanding that difference between us enriches our human interactions and experiences. The idea and that related phrase is very old and dates back to ancient times in both Western and Eastern cultures. I want to introduce you to a few people in this beautiful month of February. Slide. Unity and diversity was Howard Thurman's legacy. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Howard Washington Thurman lived from November 18th, 1899 to April 10th, 1981. He was an African-American author, philosopher, theologian, educator, and he was very strong in the civil rights movement. He was a leader. He was a pacifist, and he was a key mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You see, Howard had gone to school with Dr. King's father, and he was a force in the civil rights movement and on Dr. King. He first went to India and met with Mahatma Gandhi and received this message of nonviolence. When Thurman asked Gandhi what message he should take back to the United States, Gandhi said he regretted not having made nonviolence more visible as a practice. Dr. Thurman had lots of unity in him. He was a strong believer in finding God in nature and in our joined humanity and in the silence. He was part mystic, part preacher, and a truth teacher. Vision and purpose were his key. In 1944, he co-founded the Church of the Fellowship of All Peoples, along with Alfred Fisk, the first major interracial, interdenominational church in the United States, and it was right here in California. It was in San Francisco, to be exact. Here's another beautiful Howard Thurman quote. There is a profound ground of unity that is more pertinent and authentic than all the unilateral dimensions of our lives. This a man discovers when he's able to keep the door open of his heart. This is one's ultimate responsibility, and it's not dependent whether the heart of another is kept open for him. Here is a mystery. If sweeping through the door of my heart there moves continually a genuine love for you, it bypasses all your hate and indifference, and it gets through to you at the center. You are powerless to do anything about it. You may keep alive in devious ways the fires of your bitter heart, but they cannot get through to me. Underneath the surface of all the tension, something else is at work, and it is utterly impossible for you to keep another human being from loving you. That's from The Inward Journey by Howard Thurman. The first Unity Church was called Southside Unity Society of Practical Christianity. It was founded by Hilda Louise Eilers. The group began meeting in 1924 in a room at the Kingsway Hotel, and Mrs. Eilers attended Unity Training School and completed the correspondence course. At that time, everything had to be done correspondence course. She became a licensed Unity teacher in 1935. Vision and purpose were her key. So 10 years earlier, this Unity Church was started, but it remained segregated, as many things did in those days. The reason that I share with all of you is to bring an understanding about true unity and how it was brought into a shift in consciousness by some very strong people. The backdrop of civil rights was upon our country, and it was time for the unity movement to get some truth revealed to it and shift and change. Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman broke the barrier of segregation at Unity Village in the 1950s. She was the first African-American student to be allowed to live on Unity grounds. At that time, that was as progressive as things got. And this only happened after she threatened to leave the ministerial program. But she still couldn't swim with the others in the beautiful pool that was at Unity Village. She was licensed and ordained by Unity and went on to establish Christ Universal Temple in Chicago in 1956. In 1974, she created the Universal Foundation for Better Living and the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary. You can watch some of her truth talks on YouTube. She is clear in her message to seek God first. I love listening to her dynamic speaking and messages. So one of the things was she had this beautiful Cadillac, and she basically would tell people at Prosperity Time, and I want to see all you having Cadillacs parked in the parking lot. She knew prosperity, and she wanted it for everybody. She was a woman who worked within the system of unity to shift and reveal truth in her own unique way. Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman walked her talk in her community and in the world. Her service to New Thought and Unity communities were filled with demonstrations and manifestations of her faith and her spirit. She came to teach people how to have better lives, all people. And she came to challenge the status quo, kind of just like Jesus Christ had done before her. Open Your Mind and Be Healed is both the title of her book and her personal story of healing, because when she entered ministerial school in 1952, she had an incurable disease that she overcame by applying the principles of healing and wholeness. Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman lived and taught until 2014, when she passed away at 94. As we look back at the life and the legacy of Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, we know that all of her struggles to integrate unity were not easy breezy. Not all of our shifts, not all of our changes in consciousness are without struggle, or being uncomfortable, or even being wrong sometimes. But we can change it by changing our mind. Some of these shifts are darn difficult, but change the word difficult to challenging, and anything worth having is worth rising to a challenge. Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman is an example for us of a woman who accepted the slings and arrows and the bumps and the bruises that went along with it for a higher purpose, to enlighten, to teach, to make all life better for us all. Vision and purpose were her key. In my research on her for today's talk, I found that she did not want to be a minister. And I thought, wow, somebody else who didn't really, oh, you're 5 years old, I want to preach. No. She wanted to be a saxophone player. And she could shoot a mean game of pool. In a quote from her book, she says, you don't have to tell it or have the right signs about who you are, because the Bible says, by your fruits you are known. By your fruits you are known. All you have to do is let God do what he has to do in and through you. You are to get out of the way, and God will take care of the rest. He has taken care of me all my life. And that is Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, and I agree with her. Yes, God is my source, and today, February 18th, is her 104th birthday. So I invite you to stop with me for a moment of thanks and praise in honor of her life well lived, with joy and with purpose. Let's celebrate this amazing leader known as the First Lady of New Thought. Let's take a moment of silence. Reverend Della Reeslett was one of the many students of Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. In 2011, Della had a show on Unity Radio called Hello, Reverend Della Speaking. The next person that I'd like to tell you about is very dear to me, although we've never met. Reverend Ruth Mosley is the founder of Unity Urban Ministerial School in Detroit, Michigan, my alma mater for ministerial school, where I met our amazing friend, minister, Ken Fendrick, who's going to be here next Sunday. Reverend Ruth also founded and led the West Side Unity Church, so on Joy Road in Michigan. So there's another West Side Unity Church, just so you know. Their mission is this: we seek to serve God by working for justice and peace, respect, and learn from all the great faith traditions, and desire to be known by the love we have for one another. Not all people who desire to become Unity ministers could stop their lives and go to Unity Village in Missouri to take the many years of classes. The Urban Ministerial School was set up for people like me. I started taking classes there because I loved all the classes, the teachers, and the course content, and it was all virtual online. The teachers at the Urban School are incredible. Their knowledge and integrity have made a community where we as students feel like we are part of a very special Unity community. The Unity Urban School opened in 1979, and in 1982, the urban school graduated its first class. Those 8 students, known as the Detroit 8, joined the Unity School of Christianity students at the Unity Village to complete their final year, leading to their licensing and ordination in 1983. Since then, over 300 students have graduated from the urban school. Practically all of them have gone on to become licensed and ordained ministers. Unity recognizes how these leaders have played a key role in understanding of what unity means, and how together we affirm today and always a path of inclusion for all. Reverend Ruth's vision and purpose was to train ministers to carry a message of hope and faith to inner city churches, to urban churches. Yes, Unity of the West Side in Culver City, California, we are an urban church. Reverend Ruth said, don't sweep the bottom of your floor. When you do that, you weaken the foundation. As long as I'm here preaching, all the people I mentioned today will be known to you, so that you may know our foundation is solid. It was not, and sometimes is not, pretty and without issues, but it's solid. Reverend Ruth based her mission for the Unity Urban School on Isaiah 61:1. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness the prisoners. And what we're talking about is prisoners in mind. Reverend Ruth chose not to go out of Unity and create her own faith. She stayed in Unity, and she taught a bunch of ministers who would change the movement from the inside, and it continues to change and evolve to this day. Reverend Ruth passed in 2020, and she spent her final years in a care facility teaching Unity principles to all who crossed her path. Her struggles to get the school up and going honors the work of people, well, like me, and Reverend Sandra Campbell, Reverend Charlene Manuel, Reverend Karen Saunders, Ken Fendrick, Reverend Judy Boyd, Reverend Roxanne Graves, Reverend Mindy Tucker, Reverend Dr. Nikki Golden, Mark Hicks, Reverend Mark Hicks, and our own Reverend Ken Fendrick, Sue Fendricks, and Reverend Carolyn Jean Rose. Alice mentioned Reverend Carolyn because she was at the urban school, and I just fell in love with her. And our UWM CEO, Shad Groverland. We continue her legacy, and it is such important work. Vision and purpose is our key. In Unity, I ask you and lovingly remind you, how are you doing? How are we doing? How are you showing up, and how are we showing up? How are we being an expression of God in the world? Vision and purpose. Remember those words. As I am divinely guided, I discern my vision and my purpose, and then I co-create my vision and purpose in the world. And we do this as a spiritual group, a spiritual community. We recognize and honor the divine within as one of the common denominators that we share on our human journey. At Unity of the West Side, we honor our past and we live in our now, one moment at a time, one kindness at a time, one shift at a time, with vision and purpose. We continue the work set before us. We transform. Knowing that we are ever evolving gives us the opportunity to change and grow beyond who we were and who they said we were. Henry Adams said that unity is vision. It must have been part of the process of learning to see. I invite you to ask yourself, what is my vision and my purpose? Answer that, and then bring it here, loud and clear. And then, like Unity's fifth principle, we will go out and do that and change the world. Thank you for letting me speak today.